Okay, good evening everyone and welcome to the Town of Newcastle Town Board meeting of February 25th, 2025. The board has been in executive session and I'd like to ask for a motion to open the public work session.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we're going to start off with a discussion on our goals and objectives. We discussed that last week. As you know, this is always very much a living document, a work in progress, but there were a few things that I realized we did not talk about at the last meeting. And one of those was on the issue of facilities. And I know that we had talked in the past about town hall and the renovations there too, and how that would be done. And so I would like to add that to the goals and objectives. We knew that when we did the envision process, that town hall was one of those factors that we had to address. And so I would like to propose that we put that on our current goals and objectives and that we go out for an RFP for a needs and assessment survey for the town hall. We know that we have problems with the HVAC, we have problems with the roof and drainage problems that we would be working on right now, but it would really be throwing good money after bad or bad after good if we then were to renovate and reconfigure town hall. So this is something that some of our needs are almost at the urgent stage, I would say. So we would have to go up an RFP soon to get an assessment done. So I just wanted to, and we've talked about this. So it's no surprise, but it didn't make it into our actual discussion for the goals and objectives. So I'd like to add that to our list. And also, there was an issue that I had considered, but I needed more information on, and we probably do still need to get more information. We're gonna talk to Chief Carroll about this today, but I would like to discuss a road safety initiative. Towns have the ability to reduce certain road speed limits from 30 to 25. And we've gotten a lot of complaints about unsafe driving, distracted driving, people passing school buses. I mean, there's a road safety issue, and a speed limit reduction would obviously only address a part of that. It is not a panacea, it's not going to solve a lot of problems, but there are certain roads, internal residential roads that are town, not county or state, where, a 30-mile-per-hour speed limit seems rather fast. And so there are options within the law for local municipalities to reduce that to speed limit of 25 miles per hour, given certain requirements are met. So we can ask Lino and the chief to go over those requirements, but before we do that, it's something that I would like to put on our goals and objectives. Just to address that, because I think residents are asking for it and it's a safety issue.
I think residents will really appreciate that. There's a lot of complaints and a lot of real issues. Great idea.
Okay, so there's a process to go through speed limit reductions. And so we can talk about that. I have an outline of it, but I would let either Lena or Chief Carroll go over it. How would you like to go over those issues?
I could start off, and I know I
Okay.
spoke with the chief and the chief chime in. But yes, under town law and vehicle traffic law, when you have a town that's under 50,000 in population, in order to change the speed limit to lower it, you have to engage in a study first, and that study would have to determine whether or not that road qualifies for the reduction in the speed limit, because your speed limits in the town of under 50,000 are set by the state. So in order to do that, you have to engage a traffic engineer, do a study. That study then has to go to the county, and the county, it gets past that to New York State DOT at that point. And then once there's an agreement, then and the state says okay, then you can reduce the speed limit. In towns that have population in excess of 50, they don't need to go through that process, but because of our population, state law sets that criteria. And Chief, I don't know if you wanna chime in on that?
Quick question before Chief responds. There's no way to do this more holistically to identify multiple roads? You'd have to do each road an individual study each time?
Well, you can do a study that has a bunch of schedules, one study but has all different roads, you can do.
Right, especially if they're similar and they have similar features and metrics, for instance, residential, their children living on those roads and their school buses.
The study will look at traffic counts, speed on the road, the type of road, width of the road. Anything else, Chief, that they'll, I know in your experience, what other metrics that they use?
No, you're right. Accidents, all kinds of speed. Yes, each road would require it, but you could have the engineer do 3 roads at a time.
Right, like an omnibus report.
Or more, I don't know if this is true, but I attended an Association of Towns seminar on reduction of speed limits. And what they seemed to think was that there were no exact legal standards on this, and there were no clear guidelines as to how many roads you could fit into one study. I asked, is it per area, is it per road? Can one study cover roads that are similar in nature but in different parts of the town? And they seem to say yes, if you have similar features that you can show, that you don't necessarily need different studies for different parts of town as long as the roads were similar in nature.
I agree with that. You could have one, we have a traffic engineer do one study. If you identify, let's say the chief can identify roads that, you wouldn't want to consider a reduction in speed. Let's say there are several roads, you can have that one report, look at all those metrics in one report. It's not like you have to have several different reports for each road that you're looking at, okay? You can have one report address all those issues in schedules, okay, and on the
So that'll save us time and money.
Yes, exactly. And one of the ways that we can decide which roads would be included, because that seems like an overwhelming thing, is the chief can talk some more about this, but one way to ask Chief Carroll and his department to check on their data, and obviously they're out there patrolling the roads, to conduct an internal survey, to indicate which roads we could address. So Chief, do you wanna talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. I would encourage any resident who has a complaint about a traffic issue on their road to contact us, contact myself, Lieutenant Rocco, or just a patrol email or a phone call, and we can do it's called a traffic study. If it's a speeding issue, we have a non-intrusive radar box we post on the road that collects vehicle volume and vehicle speeds. We take a look at the accident history for the past 5 years on the road. We'll take a look at signage, we'll take a look at curves, cautionary sign. And after we do that, we get an idea of actually, what is going on the road and what kind of steps we can take to try to help, with the traffic safety standpoint. It could be selective enforcement. We can do also our radar recorders where it says, hey, you're driving too fast, slow down, those speeds, it gives you the speed. So, and sometimes, it could, necessitate a reduction in speed. And I would like to say that, just because we have a survey doesn't mean the engineer is gonna recommend every road go down from 30 to 25. They may look at it and say, no. Certainly, and I think based upon our study, we could say this road's probably gonna be something they would look at and decide to lower. So, I think start with us, let's get some real data, because some roads are a problem, sometimes there's a perception that there's a problem, and they think they're speeding and the medium speed is 85, is 25 and a 30. It doesn't have to be 35. So we've had that, like recently we did one and the speed limit was 30 and the average speed of all the vehicles was traveling at 28 miles an hour. So, it's perception versus actually data driven. So, but again, start with us. Let's collect the data and see how we can help the individual in neighborhoods.
Right, I think that could save time and money if we start internally. But Chief, do you look at things, other than what the actual speeds are, whether people have gotten ticketed, whether there have been accidents? Do you take a look at things such as whether there are children on the road, whether children play there, whether they ride their bikes, whether school buses stop there, whether people walk their dogs often? I mean, basically what pedestrian activity there is on the street.
Certainly that's something that will come into play, for sure.
Okay. All right, so I think that would be a great way to start. And you can let us know, keep us updated. We can talk offline about how to begin.
Yeah, maybe a blurb in your newsletter saying that, hey, you have a traffic concern, you have a traffic issue you believe is, you want looked into, contact the police department, here's the numbers, here's the contact, and we can start, doing.
Right, but I
these
don't
things.
wanna rely on people writing in with complaints. I think that we know that there are concerns on certain streets. So
Well,
it's something I would like to.
We do have a list of roads already that are on our radar. We have 30 separate traffic, what do we call it, There, every day, an officer is assigned to observe traffic in a specified area for, it could be a stop sign issue, say Mill River and Hamilton, right? That's a known, people, abuse that stop sign. So that's something we handle every day, it could be speeding on North Bedford. So we rotate that weekly. So we have a list of roads that we do know that our problems are, and we do work on. Some are state, some are county, we can't affect. The local roads we could do it just. So we have a list of roads we are aware of.
Okay, and it doesn't have to be simply reducing the speed limit. It could be that you might find that the signage is not adequate.
Correct.
Whether whether it's a stop sign or a yield sign or whatever it may be.
Yeah, it could be a cautionary sign, like, suggested sign to the yellow ones, this curve is 15 miles an hour is a recommended speed versus the 30 mile an hour.
Okay.
Does enforcement have a part of this, Chief? Just talking about that Hamilton Road, circle, people are aware that they're being watched there. Like if there's more awareness in the community that, certain trouble spots are being watched, does that help in terms of people complying with the speed
It
limit?
absolutely does. Yeah, if they see us, right, and they see us, periodically, or if they see us, for a 2-week period, they behave differently after that. And they know where that's an area we enforce, behavior changes.
Yeah, I know I'm stating the obvious, but I just wonder if enforcement is something that we should be talking about too.
Yeah, and again, that goes back to one of the solutions for when we do a study. And sometimes it is selective enforcement, whether it be just for a temporary period or it actually goes onto our list of areas that require additional enforcement.
In addition to looking at speed limits and potential signage, would there be a benefit to a public service campaign similar to the hands off the phone, hands on the wheel type of campaign to remind people? Because I know there's also a lot of concerns with people not stopping for school buses and things like that. So maybe we could combine with some more educational and informative activities.
Right, I think that is part of it as well. I just wanted to get this part settled first, but if we're going to have a safe driving campaign, it has to include education. And it has to include issues such as distracted driving as well, not just speeding. There are issues about passing school buses when the arms are down. I know that the school district does not have cameras on their school bus arms. I'm not sure. I know obviously it's a financial issue. Would be great if they could do that, but there are many aspects to safe driving. So, a campaign would be great, but I think we would need a task force. I don't know that it's something that the school board, the 5 of us, we could attempt to do it, but I think we need to engage the community and people who care about this to come and maybe form either a committee or a task force to help study this and disseminate information.
Along those lines, at the beginning of the year, we do have officers, in the morning and the afternoon, following school buses on their routes and looking for these violations. And if we are aware of that, there is a bus stop or a location or a roadway that this is taking place, we certainly could do a selective enforcement in any of those. So if somebody reaches out regarding that, we can look into that. And sometimes we've had it that's a specific vehicle, and they can point to a vehicle, and we can, intervene and speak with the operator and, if necessary, write a summons.
Right, and hopefully it's not, a common occurrence, but when it happens, it feels so egregious that everyone notices. So, hopefully if we step up enforcement on that, then we can address it.
Are there
or address
such
a lot of it.
things, are there such things as grants for cameras on school buses? Like, is that something that can be applied for? Like, how do school districts afford those cameras generally?
I think there are grants, but the Chappaqua School District has a challenge in that they don't have a bus, the buses are not the school district buses.
Right,
It's a private company.
right.
And so to get a grant for a school district, for a private company is not doable. I think that could be part of the challenge.
Chief, how often do you get residents reaching out to you or people in the department with a complaint and an image of a driver who may have run a stop sign or is speeding? And what is your protocol when that happens? And to be upfront, I've reached out to Chief, so I'm guilty or not guilty, doing as charged, because when I see it, it's upsetting when people run stop signs. So I'm curious, and how do people respond when you contact them?
Yeah, certainly. If you have a plate and a description of the operator, we can, document and reach out to the operator, and most people are very contrite when we reach out to them regarding violations that are observed.
So
But it helps to get the plate and the description of the vehicle. A picture is great of the vehicle, but people say it wasn't me, and then okay, well, the person driving was 18-year-old male with brown hair. They're like, oh, that was my son. Yes, I'll talk to him, kind of thing. It's not uncommon, Jerry.
I think so. To that point, without overburdening you, we have my pothole at Newcastle, whatever it may be. My potholes. You may not be there, and there may not be a camera next to a bus or near a stop sign, and we don't need to turn our town into vigilantes. But it might be helpful, instead of residents posting on Chappaqua Moms trying to shame somebody, a call from the police, whether it's the driver, is the son, daughter, mom, sister, or grandmother, doesn't make a difference. They're gonna respond and react and be more cautious. I think there's value in that. Without getting, I used to bust Rob Greenstein's chops about creating new things, but traffic violation at my Newcastle, it might be something to consider. I just to think about.
Well, yeah, I think there could be a place on the website for that. I would like to have a task force, so I'll just say now, anybody who has ever written into us or posted on Facebook that this is a problem, now is your chance to get involved, get in touch with me or anyone on the board, and let's try to form some sort of task force. I'm not really looking to shame anyone or to, point fingers. I just want this to be educational. I think that most of the time people want to do the right thing and like the chief says, they're contrite when confronted, and so people know that we're really looking at this. Hopefully that will be a big part of the solution. And hopefully we can involve the school district in this, because there are a lot of teenage drivers out there who may need a little more encouragement. And so maybe if we get them involved, that would spread the word as well.
I will say, as a parent of two teenage drivers, the school district is doing very soon, if it hasn't already happened, a safe driving presentation for the juniors. They brought in the goods.
Oh, that's good. Is that something new?
I don't remember it with my older son, so I think it
Okay.
is new this year.
And when is that?
I couldn't look up the date, I don't remember, I just know it was in my email recently.
Yeah, we've also given talks at the school regarding driver safety as well. And as part of the education, if that's something the town decided we could
This
do,
Thursday?
we'll split it at CPAC.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'll try to go. Okay, it's this Thursday, so I'll try to, is it for students or is it for parents?
It's for juniors and their parents.
Oh, okay, all right then.
The chief just said something about hosting something in CPAC.
I'm sorry, Chief, I was talking to Holly.
Yeah. Sorry I interrupted. It's also a part of the education. We could decide if the town would want it, they could host something at CPAC and have our officers do a talk or driver safety presentations for us.
Okay, that could be really helpful.
That's a great idea.
Okay, so I'll start putting notices in the town newsletter and on Facebook, and maybe we'll get a task force together. I think that when people do come together to work on something, the word spreads faster. I think it's we've seen that when the town board by itself tries to do something, it could be difficult just to have 5 people. Like for instance, the leaf blower law. I don't think there was a real community task force. I mean, it was certainly worked on by committees, but we didn't have a task force of residents going out and doing this. I think that was the case in another community that did it successfully. But I think that for public outreach, I think you need something greater than what we have here now. So we'll try to go for that. Okay. So that does it for me on the goals that we have set for the year.
Okay, so I will
Do we
add them
wanna
to the
do-
list.
Do we wanna do a recap on the goals? Is everyone set on them? We went through it at length.
Went to verbal.
So, okay, we're all set. Okay, Jill, do you wanna take over with administrative items?
Sure, thank you. We've got a retroactive payment of claims for checks dated February 14th, 2025, adoption of monthly reports from January of 2025, and adoption of minutes from January of 2025. If there's any edits, comments about the minutes, please let Lauren know, otherwise she'll be finalizing them. We've got authorization to attend 2 conferences, both for the police. One is public safety, March 10th through the 12th, that will be for Chief Carroll. And the next one is for Detective Watson Mirabella. And that one is a $1,300 expenditure for crimes against children, and that's April 28th through May 2nd. Next, we've got authorization to approve the 2024 CCSD agreement to use facilities, and that's for our camp. So no, that's not a misprint. The school district shifted over their financial software, I guess, and something got lost, and I went to find out where the 2025 agreement was and realized that we didn't have a bill from 2024. So we're asking retroactive permission to pay our bill from using the schools last year, which is not to exceed $18,500, and also authorization to approve this year's use of facilities. CCSD has been really generous with their buildings this year, and we will be able to use 7 bridges for on the go, which is really terrific. Since we've expanded the program, we can accommodate 100 students and our counselors on the tents that used to be right outside here. So we'll have a much better facility. Thank you. And that's gonna be the cost per day has gone up from $636 to $650. So our camp is gonna be closer to $19,500 for this year. Last, we've got authorization to hire a lighting consultant for the Chat Pack. It's Silent G Productions, not to exceed 12 hours at $85 an hour. This is in conjunction with the new lighting system that's going into Chat Pack, where we need some assistance in setting the new parameters of the system and also training. And that is all I have.
Okay, thank you, Jill. Alright, so that does it for our work session. I would like to call for a motion to adjourn the work session and enter the town board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, any announcements, Jill?
Yes, let me just let Ike know that he should join us.
Sorry, that was a fast,
It was a
jump to
quick
the- to
transition
the-
there, sorry about
yeah.
that. Okay. I just did want to announce that Douglas Road between Kip and Hardscrabble will be closed to everything but local traffic tomorrow, February 26th, from 9 AM to 2 PM. Con Ed has some planned tree work there. There's a very large tree that needs to come down, and it requires a crane that's going to block the road. We're really sorry for the inconvenience, but it's really important that this tree come down before it takes down wires in our next storm. I've lost Lieutenant Harako, but
Oh, okay.
but everyone everyone should have received an e-alert this afternoon at 2:00. I believe the police are gonna be sending out a nixle tomorrow morning. But if you haven't signed up for e-alerts, it's the only way for us to get emergency notifications out to you, especially with the bad weather and the sudden storms that we've been having. So do take advantage of that. You can sign up on the website. Thanks to all who have applied for the paid town hall internships. We set up interviews today. And we're hoping that we're gonna be hiring in the next meeting. So we're very excited about having interns for the summer. For those engineering students that are interested in the Mike Martis internship, good news for you, the applications for Newcastle and Pleasantville residents are still being accepted. Details will be in the upcoming e-newsletter. Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jill. I would like to acknowledge and announce, for those who have not noticed, that our gazebo is lit in orange. And it will be lit in orange through the evening of next Wednesday, which I believe is March 5th. And it's lit in orange in honor of the Bibas family. And really as a symbol for all those who have suffered the horrors and crimes against humanity that we have seen take place in the Middle East and Israel. And the town stands in solidarity and against all forms of hate in this world, whether it's anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, racism, just acts of hate and inhumane acts that we have seen. And so I just want everyone to know that we stand in solidarity with the people who have been harmed, with our Jewish community, and with all those who have suffered acts of horrific hate. So that's why you'll see the gazebo lit in orange, and we are standing in solidarity. Anyone wanna add to that? Okay. All right. So with that, we will move on to Jill. I guess the announcements covered your town administrator's report?
Yes.
Okay. We will go to an update on Gedney Pond. So we have Dennis Corelli here to give us an update on what is going on with the pond.
This is on, okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Town Board. So for
Wait, Dennis, would you be more comfortable sitting at a chair, or it's up to you. You can stand if you want, but
I think you guys would be more comfortable.
No, not at all. It's up to you, because you know, this is,
You're welcome to sit next to Lino.
Yeah,
You're-
that sounds good.
okay.
So for 2025, there's a few approaches that are happening in parallel at the moment, and execution will be obviously in phases. So at this time, I know Ike has solicited for proposals as far as, what we would, I guess, classify as the maintenance of the pond, which is sort of the application of the state approved pesticide applicators, herbicides that go to try to suppress those algal blooms. At this point, the proposed timing of those is usually in that May period. They'll do a couple of applications with sort of a period of quiescence in between, and part of that is to try to capture maybe as much of a potential bloom or grow period as you can, while simultaneously not trying to get too much at once, because the problems as we encountered last summer, that phenomenon of the fish die-off is that after the bloom, when all of that photosynthetic material starts to decay and consume the oxygen, you don't want too much of that happening at once, because then you kind of reset that clock. So that's with respect to the treatment program. In the other column, there is a plan to hydro rake those high growth areas. And the consultant that was hired to do that, we got word today that they need to complete I think as we discussed before, the bathymetry study to basically uncover what are the areas, what is the areal extent of the growth, and then B, there's a volume component to that as well, so that when the material comes out, where are we going to put it temporarily for its dewatering, how much area do we need, that type of thing, so we'll be able to plan for that. Obviously, there's a utilization component of Gebby Park that is certainly not consistent for all 12 months of the year, so there's some realization that to do this activity, we'll say during the growing season, during the high time when the park is obviously well utilized and heavily utilized, that's probably not the best time to be pulling out the wet salad, as I call it, from the pond and plopping it somewhere. So I think for visually and olfactory benefits, I think it's probably best to approach this. We're thinking in the fall, as later in the fall as we can, and have that dewatering period sort of occur into as you're progressing into winter, so that it's not as offensive or noticeable by those in the park. And it was funny because I was just having a conversation today with Victoria, chair of the conservation board. So she was saying to me, actually to do it during that time period too is probably best in terms of, and I knew where she was going with this, because there really is no reproduction happening at that time with any of the organisms. So if obviously there's a disturbance to the environment that they live in, but there's no breeding season impacts really. So that timing kind of made her feel better, which I guess would then carry over to making the conservation board feeling better. So that's our plan at the moment, as far as how we're going to attack this, to obviously not have a repeat of a fish kill, but we understand that aesthetically it did just look like it was like a rolled out green carpet when you drove by. You didn't even have to quote unquote visit the pond. It was visible from 133. So
Dennis, are you fairly certain that this treatment program is going to address that situation for now until we can do the hydro raking?
Yeah, I think both have to happen, because the treatment is you want to make that as minimal as possible to actually have that suppress. And the fact that we just have, I think the last time they did treatments was they gave me copies of the application. I think it was in 2019. So it's really been a while where the pond has just been allowed to sort of simmer on its own, and nobody has any recollection of when it was last cleaned out or dredged out. So all of that residual material and nutrients, that certainly makes itself available to some degree every year, which contributes to the growth and the blooms. So I think this is kind of like it's a reset point, and I think the treatments, what's nice about it is all of the proposals that were received, they all include like follow-up inspections, because you're just not zapping it once and walking away. So there it could be an adjustment period with respect to that. It looks like it worked. When we go out again, we might have to use a little bit more, a higher concentration. But again, the timing that they're looking to do this is before the bloom, so you're not reacting to, oh my God, here's the carpet, what do we do? So it should be better, definitely a better approach.
Okay. Now, I know one of the questions we might get is, this happened last summer, so why didn't we do this last fall? And I just want everyone to know that there are a lot of factors that have to lead up to the time prior to when this actually gets done. So we have to go out to a company, we put out an RFP, they have to deal with the DEC. There were, obviously so many ponds and lakes that were affected last summer that there were a lot of people ahead of us in the queue. And then by the time our town might have come around to our turn, the pond froze. And also, Dennis, you had mentioned to me that the DEC changed the regulations, making our pond and the situation there a wetland where it hadn't been before. Now, I thought it had been considered a wetland, but
I'm sorry.
no, go ahead. What
Sorry.
changed?
So January 1st, 2025, DEC changed their freshwater wetland regulations to include more than just what appears on DEC freshwater wetland maps. So in the past, that's generally what they only regulated, and they always had a caveat in the regulations unless it's of unusual or local importance, which was never really well defined. So now they have 12 criteria that define whether something is of unusual or local importance. In addition to, yes, we're still going to regulate what we mapped, but we're looking to update the mapping because that was obviously done under an older technology and they're not as accurate. So I did have a conversation with, someone from DEC. I have a good relationship with her, and I said, I'm just curious because this is, one of the focal points for us going forward with respect to the town. Do you think Getney Pond would be regulated as a wetland? And she said, yeah, based on, the watershed that you're located in and based on the FEMA designation or whatever, that yes, it would probably be considered part of the, this is the term, urban watershed as it's defined relative to this larger area. So now we just, not that you're not gonna get the permit, but it's just, yes, another layer of administrative approval that you need before you can go and start scooping this stuff out.
Okay, and do you have any sense of the administrative approval at this point? They have the application in. What do you think? I mean,
Yes,
let's see, we are in February already, so we're
Yes.
talking about hydro raking in the fall.
right.
That seems like a long time.
Yeah, no, and that, it's good lead time to get that approval, yes. And when you get it, there's a expiration date associated with that is, of an extended period as well. So like once you have it, it's not like, okay, we have to get there by October 15th or it's nothing like that. So, and based on the emails that we read today, they are prepared to do the bathymetry when the ice melts. And they have some applications into DEC now, and they don't know what I know based on my conversation, because they're like, we'll just have them in, and then if it's not regulatable, then the application, is not required. But it's good that they have it in, at least according to their email, because I think it is going to be required per my conversation with DEC.
Okay, so when you say they'll do the bathymetry when the ice melts, that means you will get on the pond, they will get
Yes.
in a boat,
Yes.
and they will figure out exactly what the material, what the growth is, and the volume, so that they can
Yes.
determine what they have to do once the permits are in.
Yes.
Is that's the intent?
Yeah, because they'll, when the hydro raking officially begins, what areas are we targeting? How long are we keeping that activity at that location? Exactly.
Okay. All right, do you think it will be worth having them come and discuss this with us, or I don't know how much more detail we'll need. I just want some assurance about when this will actually get done.
Right, a schedule. I think, to be fair, there's probably less of a likelihood to commit to specifics until, I guess, they know what they're dealing with in terms of, aerial extent, volume, and then, we're able to accommodate, where we're gonna dewater this, because then at least it creates like a logistical plan as to, okay, this is how we can execute it. This is the type of boat we need, or, the type of hydro rake we need, and so. And obviously I'll be inquiring about that myself, because I'll be,
Okay. And do you know when they're coming to do the bathymetry study?
Today they only committed to when the ice is gone. That was there.
That's very open.
I guess I would say it's weather. I mean, this week is a nice week, but I would imagine, we're probably gonna get freezing temperatures again, so. But it's plausible to do this in March for sure, so.
Okay, alright, does anyone have any questions for Dennis?
I guess my only question is because the community was really up in arms about this last year. Is there anything preemptively we should be doing to inform, in addition to what we're doing right now, just to get the message out there, to let the community know in advance and what they should expect from the pond over the summer and anything like that? What do you recommend?
Almost like a lesson in pond ecology. There are even in the absence of this, or even in the presence of this, there are just certain systems that are gonna. It's never gonna be a swimming pool, right? So I would expect some level of biological activity, but just because you see some algae or some growth, that doesn't mean that it's, oh my God, here we go again. You know what I mean? It's like, no, this is part of the system. You can't, it's impossible to eliminate everything. And, I'm probably speaking a little out of turn, but the other thing I think that's important is, because I was just at Gedney yesterday, and thankfully it was only one or two canine landmines that I had to step over, but, I think it's imperative that, as we are, trying to manage the pond in that capacity, and obviously, the town is spending money to manage the pond in that capacity. We don't need any additional contribution of fertilizer to the system, right? And obviously, dog waste certainly would be a stimulant for that. So it would be important to just continue to pick up after your dog and not leave it in the, turf cover sections that are right up against the pond. It's definitely not a good practice or equation.
Yeah, we talked about this last summer. And I remember putting all of this in a newsletter. Not everybody reads the newsletter, but it's really a challenge to get people to know and understand more than a soundbite. So we could have something, I don't know, I could put on social media.
So
But it's a constant education and re-education about what contributes to this phenomena. It's a big dog walking area, that much I know. So maybe we could think of putting signs up there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it was interesting that, I think there was, the two signs that I saw by the pond was no parking, fire lane, and no skating. So, yeah, I think, I'm with you on that. I don't think a sign would
Put something
for sure.
simple like
Yes.
dog waste contributes to algal bloom, please help us keep Gedney Pond
Clean.
Yes.
clean, or not clean, it's not dirty, but help.
I love
us
the idea of
maintain Gedney Pond.
signage. I think signage there and even maybe QR codes that could go to, you made some wonderful graphics in response to what was happening last year. And I think, especially for people who go to Gedney, if there are QR codes that could lead them to more information, like an update from you and also these warnings, that would be great. But signage there, just explaining to people what we're hoping they'll do to protect the pond and not add to the problem. Sounds great.
Refresh my memory, is there like a place where we can hang signs? I know there are at some of the parks.
We have, sorry, I don't mean to jump in the party here, but
Please do.
we,
Yes, Ike, your turn. I was gonna turn to you, we were just exhausting Dennis.
yeah, no, he's handling it all.
More ways
I'm
than one.
okay with that. I just, as Jill knows, signs are not my favorite, cause nobody reads them, and we have
Well, that's
more than
good.
enough in every park, but it becomes kind of white noise, and I think the people that don't clean up after the dogs, they're not gonna clean up after the dogs if we put a sign in front of them. I mean, we have waste bags throughout the park. We have signs asking people to pick up after their dogs throughout the park. They're just lazy people that don't wanna pick up after their dogs,
I don't know,
so.
Dennis, that there may be some public pressure because everybody knows, you know, about the problem at the pond.
Yeah.
It's so extreme, and I think if people see the signs, they might tell their friends or neighbors, hey, you know, you gotta pick up after your dog.
We could swap out some of the no skating signs for
Right.
I think
you know,
so.
dog waste contributes to algae bloom, you know, please curb your dog, or clean up. Yeah, they're seasonal signs, there we go.
Oh yeah, those are no swimming, no skating signs.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, we can certainly, whatever you would like, yeah.
Yeah, no, this is his pet peeve, you know, everybody
Okay,
goes to like
good to know.
to commune with nature and they're you know, encountering like a solid line of signs.
Well, I
Trying
think in
to-
this case, it might be worth it
Okay.
for a while.
If it works,
Yeah.
we're
Is there a bulletin board of some sort there where you could explain a little bit more about the process rather than just reminding people?
Yes, there is yeah, we do have a kiosk bulletin board at each of our parks, so, yeah, there's one at Getney.
But I also like the idea of the QR code.
Yeah.
I think people are likely to do that.
Maybe Sabrina could do part of her stormwater. No, I was just thinking maybe Sabrina could do it as part of their stormwater outreach. Every year she does a report, and one of the things, you may have seen I might be the only one that reads those too. But the pamphlets show a dog going to the bathroom and how it all ends up in storm drains, and it's how bad it is for the, I'm thinking that maybe.
Yeah, she could add Gedney Pond to that, even though that's not considered the stormwater, part of the stormwater.
Yeah, but it all
Yeah.
washes because it's a big basin,
Right.
it all washes down,
That's the
as someone
epitome
who
of a
used the park
shortcut.
with my dog, I've seen it as well.
Yeah.
It's the epitome of a shortcut, there is no stormwater drain, you're going right from, you know, the source to the pond, it's like
Yes,
the
yeah.
shortest trip.
I mean, it's not going into
Direct
the
route.
watershed from the pond, so that.
She has to do the
Right,
outreach.
yeah, and we do the annual mailing every year anyhow, which
Yeah.
is part of our
that's-
water quality report, so maybe we
Right.
should put something in about, you know, about that and just informationally about the Gedney Pond.
Yeah, I mean, I know
Because-
I've learned a lot about pond ecology just through this process, so if they're not watching the meetings, and they may not quite appreciate the direct connection between their actions and how they can help prevent it.
Right, I mean, we're going to do the hydro raking, obviously it's not a simple measure, it's a big production, obviously it's taking more than a year to get this done with DC approval. So it would be a shame to do all of this work and then have it happen all over again. Hopefully it wouldn't, because we would be more on top of the maintenance, we would be aware that this is a possibility now, and so we would be maintaining to prevent it, but it's so egregious and the environmental concerns are so great with the high heat, you know, the pesticides that are being applied and the dog waste on top of that.
Dennis, I thought last time when you were explaining it to us, you said something about it being a cyclical process just in nature. Like, are we expecting, as Vicky is describing, sort of like just a downward spiral based on climate change, or are we expecting this to be kind of cyclical in nature?
So I mean, this is like the pond cycle, but you know, again, it's you know, you think of it as like a fixed area, a fixed environment, a fixed volume, right? And it's kind of like the physical properties. But chemically, that's what you're trying to control. It's like sort of that density and concentration of that growth. So, you know, the nutrients kind of represent that limiting factor as to, you know, how soupy or stewy is it gonna get, or is it, you know, just more of a, you know, it's still functioning and fulfilling the natural cycle while, you know, still able to offer, you know, what is aesthetically pleasing to the residents. And, you know, the problem with pond systems is that, you know, and Gedney too, like, you know, we do have an outlet, but, you know, it's not this huge flushing mechanism, so a lot of what gets in there will stay in there, so if you don't, you know, stay on top of it, then, you know, you start swimming to,
Okay,
you
got it.
know, and obviously, as you know, certain organisms aren't pleased with that, like the fish last year, so.
Mhm.
So you try to have to get that balance.
Okay. Alright, I think that's it. Anything else, Bart? Is there anything else you wanna add? I mean, I'm sorry, Ike, I know you're not Bart,
Or the other
sorry.
one.
Sorry about that.
No, please don't apologize. I'll take that as a compliment.
Okay, alright, good.
No, I think Dennis covered it all. There's nothing really to add to any of that.
Okay,
We'll keep Jill up to date on as soon as I have a specific date from the company for the nutrient mapping, and then we'll go from there with the treatment as well.
okay, well, thank you both, Ike and Dennis, for all the information. I know you're working hard on it, and I want people to understand all of the steps that have to be taken before things get completely cleared and we're done with the whole process. So thanks for taking the time to come tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Dennis, thank you for joining us.
Sure.
Okay, now we are at public comment, so anyone
Thank you so much.
alright, thank you, Dennis. Okay, we've reached the public comment period, so I'd like to ask that anyone who has a public comment to either come up to the microphone or raise your hand online. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to come up? No? Okay, seeing no one in the audience, is there anyone online for public comment?
No hands are raised online.
Okay, no hands are raised, so we will move on from public comment. Alright, Jill, do you wanna go over the consent agenda, please?
Yeah, very short this evening.
Okay.
Again, we've got the adoption of monthly reports for January of 2025, adoption of minutes also from 2025, the authorization to attend the two conferences, one for Chief Carroll, the other one for the two detectives. We've got authorization to approve the 2024 CCSD agreement for the use of facilities. This is for last year's camp. And again, authorization to approve the 2025 CCSD agreement for the use of facilities, and that will be for camp for this year. There are a number of proposed actions as well for the board. Retroactive payment of claims, hiring of a recreation attendant, and authorization to adopt a local law to amend the provisions of chapter 93, section 2 regarding property maintenance. So the consent agenda, the resolution and the others are in your packet.
Okay, do we have a resolution, a separate shorter resolution for this item?
No, I think you probably could just do the first one and then the first whereas and then the last, therefore now be I wouldn't read, you don't need to read the whole thing.
Okay.
Just the amendment?
Are we reading this?
Just the amendment.
No, one is the amendment and the other one is the resolution, so just the resolution.
Okay. Alright, Holly, go
Sure.
ahead.
I move to adopt the items 1 through 6 as listed on the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. I move to retroactively approve the payment of claims in the amount of $209,764.55. Listed on the summary AP check register and detailed voucher detail reports, all dated February 14th, 2025. Checks were printed and distributed to each claimant listed on Friday, February 14th, 2025.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Jody, do you wanna go
I
ahead?
move to authorize the hiring of Jaden Blanco for the position of recreation attendant to serve as ski trip chaperone at an hourly rate of $18 per hour, effective retroactively to February 14th, 2025.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
I move to adopt a local law to amend, I move to adopt a local law amending the provisions of chapter 93, section 2 regarding property maintenance.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Let's see,
Just
do you wanna,
just read that and then you just read the first and last.
I think it's
Yeah, just read the top whereas I read the whereas
I
and then
think
after the first.
this,
Just do the last one?
this and this. The last two. So not the top thing?
That's fine.
Okay.
Now therefore be it resolved that the town board hereby approves the amendment to the employment agreement setting forth the terms and conditions of employment under which Ms. Shapiro will serve as town administrator. And be it further resolved that the town board hereby approves the integration of the amendment into the employment agreement and hereby authorizes the town supervisor of the town to execute same as set forth above.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Alright, may I have, am I missing something? Was there any, okay. May I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
We're adjourned, thank you everybody.